Hey, my name is Stuart, and I am arguing on the side that free speech and safe spaces should be allowed on campus and should be protected from the media and outsiders from judgment.
I'm Jacob, and I am arguing that the forum that they used out in the courtyard like that is not a safe space. If you choose to protest out in public, you have to accept the consequences that come with it.
So, one privilege that comes with being on a college campus is that it's a free space for us to express ourselves without the outside world joining in. Melissa Click believed that the students deserved the right to be sheltered from the media while protesting something that only pertained to the college. The outside media should not have been there because they aren't part of the college community. The faculty is responsible for making the students feel as if they can openly express their opinions without judgment from the media or the outside world.
I believe that college campuses aren't excluded from the First Amendment, so the media had every right to be there. By censoring the protest, other students lose the right to hear the opinions and make educated opinions from this. Just as students are citizens with freedom of speech, media members are citizens with the right to record. You can't pick and choose what parts of the First Amendment you get to use.
So, with the whole Melissa Click incident, from my perspective, this is what I thought happened. So, Melissa Click was a professor at the University of Missouri. She taught communications and was very informed on the way public speech works. So, on November 9th, 2015, she participated in a protest being held by students and faculty on campus. As the protest proceeded, a large crowd began to gather. It was all peaceful and respectful until people began to record the students and try to get inside of the protest. Thinking fast, Melissa Click and others formed a protective wall around the protesters. She did this in an attempt to block the media from corrupting the protest. As things got out of control, Melissa Click yelled out in need of a strong person to help her remove some of the media members. Melissa received a lot of hate from this. However, she was simply trying to protect these students from the media judgment and criticism. She meant no harm to the person, but wanted the media to show respect for these students who were trying to express their opinions freely and openly.
My perspective on the Melissa Click situation was that on that November 9th date, a protest was taking place at the University of Missouri. Melissa Click, a professor, formed a group of students and faculty to surround the protest to block the recordings of the media. She didn't want anyone outside of that courtyard to hear the message. She wanted to censor it from anyone who would disagree with their message. When a student tried to record this protest, he snuck through their barricade. When Melissa caught him, she grabbed him and tried to make him leave. When he resisted so he could record the protest, which is his right, she called for muscle to throw him out. Someone who is supposed to help foster growth in a student's mind thought it was acceptable to use brute force on a student because he was just trying to record a protest, which again is his right. An open protest at that. She claims she was protecting her students that were protesting. But what about that student? She didn't want to protect him. She wanted to exclude him without her even hearing his opinion on the protest. She then defended herself, claiming that the area was a safe space for students to get their message out. That wasn't a safe space. That was the most public space there was. You can't decide to make a public protest, then decide it's also a safe space where not everyone can be a part of it.
College campuses should be a safe space free of hate speech and harsh opinions. Allowing the media to show this to the outside world would have invited hate speech and hateful emails to these students, such as Melissa Click received. As there are safe spaces in the outside world, there should also be safe spaces designated on campus where students can freely express their opinions without judgment. The doctor-patient confidentiality is a good example of an outside world safe space provided.
Protests have always meant to be a public display to combat issues in the world. Censoring a protest defeats the purpose of the protest. You can't pick and choose what messages come out of a protest. That's not freedom of speech, that's censoring the message. Doctor-patient confidentiality is different from a protest. That pertains to a patient's personal health. The patient isn't trying to persuade a group of people to lean a certain way on an issue. Hannah Holborn Gray, the president of the University of Chicago, stated that education should not be intended to make people comfortable. It is meant to make them think. Universities should be expected to provide the conditions within which hard thought and therefore strong disagreement, independent judgment, and the questioning of stubborn assumptions can flourish in an environment of the greatest freedom.
Just as a business handles their issues internally, a college campus should do the same. A marketing firm isn't going to invite outside members to join their meetings and help find a solution, so why should outside media be included in college campuses? Students pay tens of thousands of dollars to enroll on college campuses and take their classes in person. They could save thousands of dollars by taking these classes online, but instead, they choose to pay the money to have this environment and safe space, which they think they have the right to express freely and openly. That community should be safe and allow them to grow within it.
Freedom of speech does not mean freedom to harass or use hate speech. There should be trigger warnings before a protest is published in order to protect those watching from getting offended or feeling uncomfortable. These should also happen in safe spaces where students are warned that they may hear controversial or uncomfortable opinions. Out in the middle of campus where students have to walk by isn't a safe place. A safe place is more like a small, intimate room, not out in a courtyard. Choosing to do a protest in the middle of campus implies that you want everyone to hear what you have to say. So if you want everyone to hear it, you can't choose a select number of people that aren't allowed to. If the message you want to get out is so important, why wouldn't you want the media to cover it? That would allow for many more people to become aware of the issue at hand.
So, not allowing certain people to record a protest does not hamper a student's intellectual growth. The student still has all the resources at hand to research a topic and form their own opinion. College is about finding who you are, and if one protest swings your opinion on a matter without cold hard facts, then you weren't growing intellectually, you were becoming a follower.
College is about growing intellectually. Part of that growth period is being impressionable. When a young mind is trying to find who they are, they can easily be swayed by a single protest. That's why the protest shouldn't be censored. Allow everyone to hear the message, and allow that message to change them however that may be.
I think it is very important that college campuses have safe spaces for students to express themselves without judgment. College is a time of growth and education, as the students are shaped into stronger individuals. They should not have to worry about their intellectual growth and exploration hindering their future.
As stated in the report of the Committee on Freedom of Expression, the ideas in a diverse community will likely conflict and differ. But just because the ideas of someone else rivals that of yourself does not mean you should be protected from hearing their opinions. It is not the role of the college to shield the students from uncomfortable ideas.
That report also states that the university is responsible for creating and maintaining a climate of mutual respect. With that being said, it is important to keep the students from openly hearing protests on their way to class. They should not have to avoid a protest and take a longer walk to class just so they don't have to be bothered and hear these opinions. These protests should be held in designated areas with obvious advertising that states what the protest is and if there is trigger warnings or not.
Safe spaces are okay if you choose the right environment. If you choose to do it in the most public space on campus, you can't expect it to not get coverage. Part of growth in education is about hearing both sides of an argument. You may not agree with an argument, but you should hear it to help you develop your personal opinion.
In my opinion, Melissa Click was completely in the right to try to keep the media from filming the protest. She acted as a faculty member who knows her job is to keep a safe environment for the students. As I stated before, these students are in a very important place in their development and should not be filmed while having their opinions expressed. They are still learning, and if they want to be seen by the world, they would not have chosen the campus as a location for their protest. They simply wanted to express their opinions to the university members. Melissa Click understood this and did her best to uphold her beliefs. In my opinion, she was brave for doing this and received a lot of unnecessary hate emails and threats.
In my opinion, Melissa Click was squarely in the wrong. Protests are one of the many great things that come from the First Amendment. You know what else comes from the First Amendment? The media's right to record those protests. By saying you can protest and not allow others to film it is hypocritical. That goes back to picking and choosing what parts of the amendment should stand just to fit around what you want. On top of that, she tried to ensue violence on a student. Calling for muscle to get rid of that student is no different than how criminals work. If you want the freedom to protest, that student gets the freedom to record. You don't like it, then don't protest.